Good morning or good evening to everyone, and welcome to the Data-Driven Community virtual meeting. My name is Ronen Arieli. I'm from Israel, working as a senior consultant in the field of data platform and architecture of enterprise-level system. I'm co-admin of the Data-Driven Community, and I will be hosting this session today. A few words about the Data-Driven Community. We are managing two branches of activity. The first one is an annual conference called Future Data-Driven Summit. This year conference will be held on September 2024. The call for speaker is already opened, but was not announced officially yet. The second branch of activity we run is a weekly meeting of the Cloud Data-Driven User Group, like today. If you are using SQL Server data tools on Visual Studio, then Microsoft Teams ask our help. They are looking for feedback from you. So it's basically it's a great opportunity to interact directly with the team that develop the tools you are using. You can scan the QR if you are fast enough, or just wait. I will put the link in the chat during the meeting, and you can help Microsoft with some feedback and interact with them. Please feel free to use the chat during the meeting. And this is a user group, it's not a conference, so it's not only for questions. Feel free to use it for discussions between yourself. You are also welcome to use reactions. I like it a lot. It doesn't interfere with the course of the meeting. If you hear something that you love, like, or you want to clap hands virtually, then please feel free to do it. It's nice. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today, Pedro.R and Ricardo Santos. I didn't make the short information about Ricardo because we only added him as a speaker today, but I already wrote to myself to mention that Pedro is a Microsoft Data Platform MVP and a Microsoft certificate trainer. He is speaking in events all around the world, and we are fortunate to have him and Ricardo sharing their information with us today. So Pedro, Ricardo, you can share your screen and take control. Please add some words about yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Ronen, and hello everyone. So we'll first tell you a little story and then we'll introduce ourselves because we want to get everyone excited and not to repeat too much. So we are going to host a session about doing Power BI development with ChatGPT. And the question we're going to try to answer is, can ChatGPT help you on doing certain tasks on Power BI? Can it make someone faster doing some things? Does it work? Doesn't it work? But I think this question comes in mind not only doing tasks with Power BI, but also doing other types of tasks with the ChatGPT, right? Everyone has tried it. Everyone is trying to do things. But are we in fact numerically more productive or not with ChatGPT? And so finally, there was a study which was published on the Harvard Business Review, and it was a study conducted by the BCG, by Boston Consulting Group, which put in place 1,500 professionals, consultants, and real consultants having a task from an enterprise on the fashion industry. And these consultants had to do a lot of tasks, like preparing marketing plans, preparing business plans, presentations. They had to do data analytics. They had to do a lot of things. And some of the professionals would be using the assistant, the ChatGPT. Some of them would not be using it at all. And some of them would be doing a hybrid, sometimes using, sometimes not using it. Did it increase the productivity or not? And BCG actually measured if it increased it or not. And also, first conclusion is that 25% consultants faster to complete tasks using AI, and even 12% more tasks achieved by using the help of AI. Second thing, 40% higher quality on the final products that were deliverable on the outputs by using AI. And this was significantly higher number on the more junior level members than on the more senior. There was a better quality improvement on the juniors than on the seniors. Does it make sense? Does the same thing apply to Power BI? If you are a senior, can it still help you, or does it only help you if you are a junior? These are the types of questions that we're going to test today during our presentation. We believe this can help SQL and BI professionals who don't, well, if you, as first introduction by Ronan, maybe many of you guys are from the SQL world, and sometimes you need to go to DAX or to M or on Power Query, and it's not your zone of comfort. Can you get a little help from ChatGPT? Maybe yes, maybe not. Let's try out. If you are a citizen developer and you don't have coding expertise, you do need like a SQL script, a Python script, can it help you? If you need some ideas on branding or on imaging, can it help you? Or give you ideas like troubleshooting a scenario or things like that? We'll test if it works. So Ronan already made the introduction. Just to share one detail, also I'm a co-founder and organizer also of a user group, the Fabric Power BI Portugal group. We have over 4,500 members. And Ricardo, you also part of a group. I share the word to you to present yourself too.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Ronan, for this fast change of the session. So just a little word about myself. I work with Pedro in the same company. We work in a multinational banking that is spread around 38 countries. We take the role as expert leaders in business intelligence and big data solutions. So we develop the architecture for the whole group and for specific projects inside the company. Also, I work on my free time. I work on my free time as a vice president for the Portuguese Business Intelligence Association. So it means that we also create a lot of these events for the community and a lot of years of practice on this field. And I'm also MCSE in Microsoft in data management and analytics.
All right, Ricardo. So what are we going to present today?
So today we're going to tackle some of the, well, we thought about the problems that we will tackle. So what are the main tasks that we do when we work with Power BI? So we try to classify the tasks that we try to do, like data modeling and analysis, some type of requests on ChatGPT about that, generating artificial data to test our models. Also, well, developing the Power BI, the Power Query code that will do all the ingestion to Power BI, DAX measures, CSS, imaging that we want to include in the report. Also, we're going to test using tabular editor scripts, so asking ChatGPT to generate the tabular editor scripts, and the commandlets with the PowerShell scripts. We did a little key takeaway that will give you the conclusion in the end of the session. So how did we classify this kind of approaches to ChatGPT? So we did a lot of testing, like you saw. We're going to tackle a lot of problems. So we tried to classify the results. So it means that when we asked ChatGPT, is it the correct answer? Or did we have to ask it with another prompt? Did we have to generate another kind of interaction with it to get the correct answer? Or if it simply could not respond to the things that we request in ChatGPT? So for the first test, I will let Pedro do the introduction. So we did a data modeling test.
Yeah, and some of the first tests will show like the entire video of trying to run the test. We recorded our tests on ChatGPT. We are not doing it live because the objective of this session is in the end to present it also which ones work, which one didn't work. If we're going to test right now and we didn't know, we couldn't present you this comprehensive analysis of all the tests that we did in the end and all the iterations that we did. So let's start with the first one. Can ChatGPT help you doing data modeling and analysis? Let's try a few things. First of all, I'm going to ask it to generate a data model, meaning generate some facts and some DIMs. So for a data services firm, generate a data model. Okay, I give it a prompt and let's see how it works. I also asked it to prefix it with fact or DIM, the tables. And you can see it's already suggesting, okay, for this firm, you will have sales, service usage, client interactions. You'll have some DIMs like clients, services, employees, time. And I also asked it to list the relationships in a buzz matrix. So you can see also the table output is being produced. And this is important because when we develop products, we also need to document what we are asking it. So, okay, so far so good. So tests, okay, you see in the bottom in green, the test was successful and it was able to generate a model. Another test is, can it analyze an existing model? And for this test, we went to Vertobello, which is you can basically generate your schema there and then export the full SQL code that you can run on Management Studio or something like that. You can just draw your diagrams there, and we draw a diagram there. And we did some tweaking of the model so that it didn't work exactly. So we, for instance, changed the company name from varchar to a numeric format. And we also deleted one relationship and we changed the primary key for one table. You can see here, we put the product name as the primary key and the company name as integer. So we want to know is if we ask the AI to analyze, will it detect the errors or not on this? So let's test. Because we don't want, it's very complex to analyze all the tables and it would throw a lot of text. We ask it to analyze just this model and focus on the product and client tables. Assess the model and identify potential issues with relationships, keys, and the design. And so we can see that this is the analysis produced and it correctly identified. Let me see, product key has the primary key set on the ID. It's not correct. It actually didn't see it correctly, maybe because of the resolution. And on the company name, it detected that it shouldn't be an integer, but instead of varchar. So, okay. So the test was partially, actually, this is partially okay. The point was the image resolution. When we threw it a second image with a better resolution, it actually worked and it went okay. Another option is to pass the data model to ChatGPT, just a screenshot. Taking a screenshot, copy paste, and we are using ChatGPT GPT 4.0 for the tests, where it's multi-model. Okay, it's the paid version.
For the code that I did, no, it's just 3.5, the free one that you can use. So that's why I wanted to also do the test with the free version. Yeah, to make sure if we got the same results.
For this case, it's the multi-model version, so the 4.0, which you can just copy-paste or add files. For instance, that data model that we showed you, we exported it. That program, Vertobello, can export the SQL scripts from that model. We exported it, and then we imported the actual SQL code script into ChatGPT. And we asked to analyze. And when we ask to analyze it correctly, you see that the primary key is incorrectly set on the product name, and that the company name on the client is integer where it should be varchar. So the test successful. You can see why this is useful, right? This can save you a lot of time. Someone asks you to review like a model, you ask a first analysis, and this can save you really a lot of time analyzing scripts, analyzing potential errors, potential integrity relationship issues. This works very well. Works better with the script and with the image, but also works with the image. So it's quite nice to see this. Then asking data analysis on a file. I went to the file and deleted a couple, you see here a couple of lines just to see, prepare the file with some errors, for instance, on a numeric column, etc. Largest model you analyze by table count. Let me try to get the numbers in a few minutes. So first of all, I asked to analyze this file with Excel, and it just threw a lot of errors. I also then saved each of these separate files as CSV, but unfortunately it didn't work. And so you see the errors analyzing. Maybe it was specifically this day or not. We will virtually will test again, but specifically for this test, it was KO. And it wasn't a lot of, it was like 2 megabytes total size of the Excel file. So it was, I don't know the number of rows, but it was nothing special. Maybe a few thousands, like 50K, 100K. Sending a snapshot of the Excel table. Not sure, but it can read the text. The multimodal version can also read the text. So I think it can work, but it will only be limited to a few lines, which defeats the purpose of the data analysis. So,
Pedro,
yeah,
we have a few questions on the chat.
sure.
How did you pass the data model to the ChatGPT? Graph format or another format?
Yeah, that was a question I think I just
Yes,
answered, which is with the
he was
screenshot.
answering, yeah.
Yeah, screenshot and
Okay,
copy paste to the GPT 4.0.
This is like a general question about the ability, the largest model you have analyzed, or you think that it's able to analyze.
Yeah, even with our results, only a few megabytes or 50,000 errors through already errors, so we didn't go into larger files. But we believe that with the speed that things are working, in 6 months, he will do this test again, and he will have no problem likely to on those type of volumes.
What about just sending a snapshot of Excel tables?
I think someone has the mic on, right? Yep.
Okay, I will ask everyone, please mute yourself during the meeting. At the end of the meeting, you will be able to use your microphone. If you have questions, and there are a lot of questions, please put it in the chat. We will try to go over all the questions. If we will not have time, so we will publish the answer after the meeting, but we are flexible with the time, so we will try to answer everything. Let's continue. What about sending the snapshot of the Excel table? Excel, it's not table, the Excel data.
It can work. It reads very well the text from like a Excel type table. It reads very well, but the problem is you are very limited on the number of rows. So for that, it's not so good. Just for if you want, for instance, you throw an image and you edit, give me back a table with the text. It works as well as, for instance, if you do it on Notepad too, it also works.
Okay, there is someone, Frankios, said that he tried with 10,000 rows and using a CSV, it didn't work well. Okay, we know. Let's continue with the session. We'll go back to that question later on.
Of course. And thanks for the questions, guys. Feel free to throw them in, and we'll keep giving our input from the tests we did so far on those questions. Great questions so far. We go to a second round of tests. We want now, sometimes, this is very common, if you are working on a project and you still don't have access to the full data, or you just have access to part of the data, but you want to show what might be the result of the end product, it's very common in the industry to have to generate artificial data. Can ChatGPT help you do that? Let's try to do a few things. Okay, so generate sample CSV files for each of the tables, and we'll throw it. We want 5 years of data, 2019 to 2023. We will also ask, there was like growth in one of the years, the other one was bad, to see if it can interpret these patterns and make it reflect on the data. We want also that our dimensions have certain types of naming convention, like the employees or the customers. We can throw this information in the prompt like I'm doing. So ChatGPT is analyzing, didn't work. Okay. So it's being lazy, right? It's asking to generate a smaller sample. Sometimes this happens. It was actually a bug reported to the OpenAI team. Current reports report it's not being so lazy, but let's try again. So I insisted on this and doing a second round of tests. Let's see. Okay, now it's generating the CSV files for the model, but it didn't generate the entire list of files, unfortunately. It generated, you see, a few of them, but not the entire thing. So let's go to another test. So that one was KO. Let's try instead to ask to generate a Python script, which by itself you can run locally and it will generate the CSV files for you, right? Even before testing, we assume that this will have a higher degree of success than the previous approach. So here it goes, and it's going to output it to a local folder. Here is the Python script, and it's generating, imported the pandas library, and then starting to give the parameters like we asked it. Very good. Creating the code. You see the random names, but with the information like American names that we asked, and so on. And so finally, it created the script. We can copy and save it as a Py file and run it locally. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so the script only generated actually 3 tables in that sense, but I asked it to do it again. Finally, it generated the entire script. We are on VS Code, and I'm going to ask it to run now in our terminal. Okay, so we run it. Let's see if it produced the files. And we can see here in our folder, we have the files, and you can see by the size that the files actually have content and have data. Okay, very good. I opened a couple of these files, like you see here, the DIM customer, DIM employees, and we can see that actually they have the format that we expect. On the sales fact, you have also the format and the years produced, but there was an error, meaning that the year where I asked it to have a growth, you see 2022, I plugged this data into Power BI, and actually it didn't respond well. I tried this a second time, and to enforce that I want that there is a year of growth in the pattern, or you can just go to the Python script and adjust the parameters, but it means that it worked, but there was some tweaking to do on that. Let's consider that this was okay, because you can easily adjust the output and it should be okay. So Python script can be really useful, and our approach is better this way. If you are not a Python person and you want to actually generate this data with SQL, you can also try to ask it to generate a transact SQL script, which generates the same tables on a SQL Server database. The problem is that it will complain that, for instance, the first time I run it, well, the randomization functions on transact SQL are not so good as the Python ones. But it will still try to generate, and it's going to throw, you see the create table statements, and then the insert statements for the data. So let's go forward, creating foreign keys. Okay. The insert statements, it's being lazy here. You can see that it's giving the idea on how to do the insert, but it's not actually inserting the entire data for the script. So let me go to the next one. After asking it to generate the full script, let's try to run the create statement here. Okay, and it ran. Let's see if we can see the tables in Management Studio. Okay, and we can see our schema here and the tables created. So cool. Our insert statement, unfortunately, you can see here an error. You see, it threw an error. So after a few iterations, yeah, error. Finally, after a few iterations, what was I think there was some error. Okay, So there was an error message indicating that there was an attempt to insert a null value into the employee in the employee ID, and when you prompt it with the actual error, it fixed the script, and now the insert will function. So this means that the test will be successful on this case with iterations. So if we go on to the next slide, you see the test okay with iterations. So final conclusion. From our point of view, the Python approach to generate artificial data is the best. Ask to generate the script, run the script locally, and then generate your artificial data. The other approaches might also be valid, but be aware that they will not work so well. It's our conclusion. So just a pause to see if there is any question.
If I can just highlight something, Pedro, I can see the potential that you showed now for SQL World to analyze the database project. So you can ask ChatGPT to analyze errors on a database project. I already tested that, and it works really well to find special characters, stuff that is missing on the code. When you have a big volume of database projects, that's really awesome to have the chat help correct the code.
A lot of things, right? The meta-driven warehouse or lake house, and also asking when you are going to add something, ask it to revisit in terms of relationships, consistency, repeated data, redundancy, all these kinds of things. It's possible, yeah. Okay, I think no more questions so far, so I'll go forward fast and furious with because we have a lot of demos. Generating Power Query code. So let's try to do a couple of simple tasks. Like instead of going to the web searching for a calendar, let's try to generate it directly. Let's then try to add in our calendar a couple of custom columns, or custom functions. Simple task: generate a dim table in Power Query and add a column to say if it's a UK or English holiday. And also a column if it's a working day, non-weekend, non-holiday column. Does it work or not? Well, let's see. It's generating the M script. So very simple. Yeah, it asks for a list of English holidays. It didn't generate it. So there are a couple of ways you can already feed this list, or you can just link it to a website which contains this list. There are multiple ways, but it didn't directly was able to create the list of holidays in the first prompt. So obviously need some iteration on that. Okay, generate the entire script. Because it gave me that information, but didn't generate the entire M script. So I asked it again, please generate the entire script. I don't want to write anything. I want the code ready to copy and paste, right? Because we want this to be fast and to help our development. If I want,
and you want to be lazy.
Yeah. I want to be lazy. Great. I want even to do this with the voice or with the Oculus Rift when I'm walking in the street.
So let's small question in the chat. Have you tried to create a machine learning model for predicate analysis?
So not yet, but as you actually create data flows for your machine learning model, it's certainly possible to tweak the code for that case, obviously, yeah.
And there is another question. Do you have Python steps?
Yeah, I can, after the session, I can share with Ronan some of the prompts that we have, and it can be shared, yeah.
Right.
So, okay, so the tests, let's copy paste and see. Okay, it actually created the calendar, but the column with English holiday is throwing an error. The reason for the error being thrown is that actually ChatGPT was lazy and didn't fill the entire holidays. So it didn't just fill 2 holidays, and there was 3 points, an ellipsis saying, please fill this with the rest. So of course this threw an error on this table here, but the rest of the code worked well. So let's go to the next one. So I want to add a column with the number of working days year to date, right? You want to know if you are working with seasonality or these kind of things, you want to know how many working days, excluding the holidays and the weekends, you have so far, if it's on a specific country. If it's not, you can model this with another approach in Power BI. So fast forward, let's see, does this work? Let's copy the code that it gave us. You see, it's adding an index column with oh, it doesn't work. So I give it the error back. Oh, it's throwing this error, and I ask it to iterate again. Go here again, copy paste the code. This is what we call the iterations. Okay, now it throw back. Let's see if it actually worked. We'll go to the end of one of the years and see if it resets in the end of the year. So let's see, December 266, 267. Oh, unfortunately, it didn't reset in the end of the year. So the test didn't work. So we go the year to date, we go back to ChatGPT. The year to date is not working. It doesn't reset after the end of the year. Fix this error and throw back the scripts. Let's try again. And finally, you see it's working with a few more iterations. It created the column with the year-to-date working, the number of days. Let's try another test. Sometimes, if you work for a multinational company and you want to provide column names in a Power Query with, in English or in French, in our case, working for a French investment bank, we have this case. So I want to translate directly the column headers to French. Can you help me, ChatGPT? So ChatGPT to the rescue. Okay. Oh, it's already showing année, numéro de mois, and we can see that the names are appearing. And we just replace the code here with this one, and let's see. Magically, our oops. Let's see here. You can see our headers are translated into another language. So something nice, also very easy to do, and it works pretty well.
By the way, so if I can add something, Pedro,
yeah.
Usually I use the translate function to describe the model, and then use a file to put the translations inside Power BI with ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
Just another idea for you guys. Some tests that we didn't put here in the session, but we can share.
Yeah, some comments here. I see comments DM code nicely, though. Absolutely. And if you throw it and ask it to comment, to explain, works very well. You see that the problem is when, for instance, it's doing these kind of functions like analyzing the previous row, doing an index function, it still has some problems. But Copilot is coming also not only in DAX right now, but the next step directly in Power BI is Copilot in Power Query 2. So it shows that, as we've seen in this test, it's already possible to do a lot of things. Sometimes it's not perfect, but it's just the way going forward. And it will come natively in Power BI. You can do a few things outside. Of course, note that everything that we are doing here, we are doing it on a personal environment, so make sure that you can do this on a secure environment in your enterprise. This is fully for demo purposes. Okay, so we go to test number 4, and test number 4 is, now let's go to DAX now. Can we generate DAX measures with Power BI? We know already that there is the Power BI Copilot, and we'll also see what we can do directly with ChatGPT. And I'm going to try to do a few things a bit different. For instance, anyone knows here the repository from Kerry Kolosco, where you can create something like this table with, and for this, if you want to do conditional formatting for a cell like the state, natively in Power BI, you can only fill the background color of the entire cell. and you cannot like add like a round button around, for instance, a state, or do like some kinds of certain bars. But if you create an SVG measure, you can actually tweak it as you please and create the shape you want. But sometimes it's not so easy to create the SVG shape, so ChatGPT to the rescue. Let's see if it can help us on that. So I'm going to ask it to create a DAX measure to return an SVG image with a button-like appearance, displaying the text "not OK" on it. The SVG is defined to have a rectangular red button with rounded corners, and the text is centered in the button in white. Very specific. So here is the code that was produced. And I'm going to add this code in a measure in Power BI. I add it here and I test the measure, but it didn't work. What I'm going to do instead, and if you guys want to try this on this, I'm first going to give it an example which works, and then I'm going to ask it to adjust based on that, to understand exactly how to encapsulate the SVG code inside the measure. So this example I show here works, and I ask it to do the adjustment. And Power BI and ChatGPT is better doing adjustments to things that work than doing it from scratch, because sometimes it needs some context. So I ask it to do this, and then start to do some adjustments, like, okay, if it's less than 5, show OK in green in the button. If it's greater than 5, show no, not OK in red. Adjust the measure. If it doesn't work, I'll also ask it to adjust. And finally, you can see here the code. We copy paste it to a measure, and we can see we have the OK and not OK in the buttons. You see the OK on the 5 and 6, and the 4 and 3 with not OK, with the button shape red and green shape like buttons. So it works, and you can change it to a rectangle, a circle, a lot of things. You can tweak this code. So we'll also share the slides afterwards. So if you want to copy paste this code or the prompt that we give it to try it out, feel free. You can just copy paste this code that we have here, and you can try it out and tweak it like with different colors, different shapes, and it will work in a measure. The next thing, let's try to animate some shapes. For instance, we have a picture of Cristiano Ronaldo, and we'll have another one of Neymar, and we want to use CSS in order to move the shape like from one position to the other. If we want to create an animation like with a car moving, or some type of entry image on a measure, something like this, let's try it out. And so I asked it, and it created a measure which will double the size of the image. We are using for this HTML custom visual to embed the code, okay? This one is a certified visual, which means that it works. So let's see. Okay, and this is a measure and HTML code on a DAX measure on Power BI, and it works, and it can increase or decrease the size of the image. This is the code of the image, of the measure. If you guys want to try it, it will work. A second test is, I want to, for instance, move it around, and I'll ask the animation the following. Move it right 50% of the size, scale it to twice the size, move it left again, scale it to the correct position, and even adjust. If it's Cristiano Ronaldo, it will go in a straight line. If it's Neymar, it will do some zigzags around the place. So Cristiano Ronaldo, here it is moving in a DAX measure in HTML visual, increasing the size, decreasing, moving. If we change it to Neymar, then you see the image takes a different movement around around here the canvas. So it's possible to use ChatGPT to create measures with DAX, with mixed with SVG or mixed with CSS, and create some animations. Thanks, Shamrin. I'm glad you found it cool and creative. If you want, you can try it out, and we'll publish also the presentation to try some examples.
After the meeting, I will ask the speakers to provide all the code and the session materials. When I will publish the recording, usually in the first response to the message, I add a link to the session materials.
Yeah. So test number 5. We want to generate some images for our report, like a banner, maybe a background, some placeholders, symbols and themes, etc. But just before going that, a question from Fernando, the security of data exposure in the web when working with production data. So of course, first of all, it usually only first you need a certified visual, and the one I showed is the only one which is certified with HTML. And secondly, of course, use it, for instance, for not data, but actually like images or effects. Is the recommendation is the best approach to beautify the report, but don't actually throw it with sensitive data on the reports. All the visuals that are certified.
All the examples that Pedro showed are using images from web, but you can use your own internal images. So it means that maybe you don't even need to be exposed to the web, right?
Yeah, you can. There are multiple ways. For instance, you can convert your images to base 64 and directly embed it in the code or put it in a column. That way, you are only working with your local data, or you can have a server which needs to be accessible internally in order to use the certified visual. So the test number 5. Anyone here had the need like to add to a report a Unisharp character? Anyone here already searched, for like a specific character? I don't know, like a up arrow, down arrow, something like this. Okay, not okay. Yeah, some people are putting their hand up. Yeah. So many times I went to this gallery and I have here the list of vertex42.com to try to find the good Unisharp character. Can ChatGPT directly throw you the character according to the text? So let's try it out. Create a formula which shows a scale from 0 to 5. Show the number of complete stars and then empty stars in order to show a total of 5. Set a variable with a number of 3 just for tests. Okay. So you see, it created directly a measure, but it just hard-coded here the star icon and the empty star icon and used the wrapped function index to fill it up to 5 stars. So it worked very well. This is very common to do. And now I want to replace the symbol by an alert icon. Just search for it. And you can see it actually found what was the character. I didn't need to find it. If you ask like a stop sign, I don't know, an ambulance, tall building, it will find it automatically. It won't have to search for it. It's very cool. So it also worked replacing the symbol. Then let's try to generate a banner 1000 pixel by 200 pixel for a data services, for our company data services. We wanted to generate it. Almost, it generated a good look and feel, but it didn't generate in the entire form. Let's try again. Be very precise. 1280 by 720. I just want the banner on the first 200 pixels on the top. No, it doesn't work. Trying a few more prompts. Create the image should have 2 sections, like from 0 to 120, contain a logo, etc., etc. I try multiple things. I'm going to fast forward because it doesn't work. I try multiple things. I even started from the ground. Create a 3x2 black rectangle. Okay. Then create an image with a frame, and from Cartesian coordinates 0 to 0 to 1280, a white rectangle, and the rest with a black. I try to do every way possible to define exactly the start and the end, but it just doesn't work. I cannot, the images just are thrown in a 3x2 or a 4x in a 4:3 or a 16:9 format. These are the standard formats. There are other type of AIs, for instance, logo generators or banner generators that you can use directly for this purpose. But on ChatGPT, I couldn't work it even on the 4.0 version. So Xamarin on the 3.5 also shouldn't work because it didn't work on the 4.0. So for image, no success so far. Maybe in the future we'll come back and do another test on a new 4.5 version or something. Certainly do a few tests more. Now let's suggest a theme. We create a theme and we want to change the theme colors. If you go like to a theme generator, for instance, this great one by BIBB, you have the link here also in the presentation. You can go download the theme and then try it out, the colors. I'll ask it to see how it works. So one test I'm going to do next is I want to pick an image, change it to base 64, the one that we are speaking right now, right, Ricardo? We want to encode it to base 64 and put it as the default background in a Power BI theme. Can it do it? So I prompted to do it and it created a JSON file theme with this structure. It didn't work. Then I give it a theme which already works and ask it, okay, please use this one for the base and replace it. No, I had some problem also on this, so it didn't work. Other test doing it is we provide an already existing theme, the one that we downloaded from BIBB, and we ask to change the theme colors from blue to yellow style. Why am I testing this? Of course, today you can go to the theme and adjust it manually, the palette, etc. But imagine doing this like with your voice. Oh, this theme I don't like so much the type of colors. Change it to more to change it to a more. You think of a company, Amazon orange style palette, and it automatically does that for you. It's very good, but does it work or not? So it wasn't able. I wasn't able to download the file. Let's add a few more things. And finally, you see, this is the theme that was automatically generated and everything is now yellow. So it worked. Giving it a theme, asking it to change the colors, it worked. But on the bottom right table, you see, it's still not yellow. So we can ask it, this theme actually lacks the definition from a table visual. So David Eldersveld Power BI theme templates. He has like a repository of different visuals with the layout that you need to configure to include in a theme. And I ask it, okay, this is the definition for a table visual. Add this to the JSON file theme and then change it to yellow color. And you can see, well, it's not very good, but what I mean is that it was able to add this table visual definition in the code automatically and change the colors. I didn't have to open the theme on Visual Studio Code and do it myself to copy paste and to insert the part of the code. So it worked well. I just was not very specific in terms of how I wanted the colors of the table to be, right? And just put everything with different tones of yellow. So let's consider that the test was okay, success, just need to tweak a little bit more the prompt. Just a question. Did you ask it to improve colors for accessibility? Actually not. That's a great idea, Fernando. I think we will steal that idea for a future test.
Absolutely, and we can also ask to improve UI UX experience. Also, it has the algorithms to generate this kind of development. So. So Pedro was more on the visual part on Power BI, how we can augment our visual model. I'm more on the tools, more on the scripting, on the code, how we can automate some processes, how can we generate code that will replace some of the work that we usually do on the models. And so the challenge was I don't know if you know, but I will share also on the chat. There is a site called SQL BI. It's one of the most known sites for Power BI patterns. And they have a tool called Tabular Editor that is used as an external tool on Power BI, but that helps augment the capabilities on how you can work with the Power BI model. It's a free tool. Now they launch another version that is Tabular Editor 3 that has a paid version because it has much more components and much more functionalities than the free one. But what I'm going to show you today here is, like Pedro showed you, is using free tools. For example, the ChatGPT 3.5 and not the 4. The 4 has a subscription. The 3.5 is free. Also, just a tip for anyone that really wants to use the 4, the ChatGPT 4. If you install the Android or iOS app for Copilot from Microsoft Copilot, you can use the ChatGPT 4 for free. So you can install it on your mobile, and you can use the ChatGPT without subscription. So next slide, please, Pedro.
Yep.
So what we try to do is, okay, we already know that the website SQL BI has a lot of code that can really generate the help that we need for developing automated tasks on our reports and our models. So we try to ask ChatGPT if it could deliver the same code that we already have on the site. So that way we can compare if the results are okay. So I asked him to give me the C# code that we use on Tabular Editor snippets to create measures from all of my columns. So he understood what we wanted. He developed a C# code that actually does all of those transformations. The problem is that he did not understand that it was to use inside Tabular Editor. So he gave us a C# code. As you can see there, you have the using system link, but with a small tweak. Can you go ahead, Pedro? What I said, okay, you give me, okay, remember that you have to insert your model, you have to change your table name, you have to change your columns. And so it's not that automatized to change all of the columns. So next slide, Pedro, please. Okay, so I specified that I wanted to use the C# inside the snippets. That is the tool to create the measures for Tabular Editor. And when I specified that I wanted to use the snippets, he actually gave me the code as it is on SQL BI. Go ahead, Pedro. And it actually put the same code that we have on the snippets. And I was able to test it. I just replaced the table name and the columns that I wanted to create the measures. And with, as you can see, with a small interaction, it actually gave us exactly the code that we need to create the measures. Also, I tested renaming. I don't know if you guys ever had to do that, but to do a batch rename on the entire model, all the columns that have a specific name and you want to batch rename all of them, this code is really useful to just replace all of the names in the model. So good, with a small interaction, this test was okay. So we try to enhance. Okay, we can see that OpenAI and ChatGPT can really give us the exact code that is published for the snippets. Let's try, okay, now I want to do a renaming of all the columns that have that are inside the opportunities table, and I want to specify the pattern that I want to use for the rename. So I want to add the table name plus another score on each column that we have on the table. So I ask the code, ChatGPT warns us about the tabular editor, but he still was able to understand what we wanted on the code, and he gave us the snippet that we can use inside Tabular Editor, and that we can run the snippet on Tabular Editor. Can you show the results, Pedro? So what he did was he actually put the snippet, if you copy paste it inside the C# script inside Tabular Editor, as you can see, they identify the code, they comment all the all the steps, and actually he was able to rename all of the columns. So bottoms up, small interaction, but it was able to work. I had to specify what I wanted to get the results. Okay, I have an interesting question here. Did you specify ChatGPT to act as a Power BI expert before you asked him any generated code? No, actually I didn't. So it was just a prompt, a normal prompt. I was expecting indexed results. But that's a good suggestion, and maybe it's something that we can optimize in our next tests.
Or even maybe, does it work better the Power BI expert or the C# expert on this case?
Exactly.
Right?
On this case, is more on the code, right? Maybe on the DAX and the M query and the Power Query code, maybe that will be augmented results and less interactions, maybe. But here, as you can see, I had to specify that Tabular Editor is something that uses a snippet inside Power BI. For him, he understood that I just wanted the C# code. So maybe that Power BI expert could have changed the first prompt. Good suggestion. So a new tweak for the next session. Okay, in here, I asked him to just create another pattern inside the column names. And he gave me a different result, so I could be able to run again all of the renaming. And in this case, I think I asked him to create the sum measures for all the columns. Can you go give me the result? Yeah, the rename. And then I just checked, and as you can see, all of the columns already have the opportunities underscore behind it. And this was actually just on the measures part. I just wanted to change the measures without changing the names on the columns. So for example, if you're using the columns for filters or for any visuals that will give you the sums, and you just want to use a rename of the measures that are being used in the metrics that you are using, you can use this mode, and it will generate all of these changes for the measures. So you are able to specify the object that you want to change and also the pattern of the naming that you want to change. Can you go to the next? Okay, so next we wanted to test something that for us, for me and Pedro, are really useful when we go into production with Power BI reports is we have to have a way to deploy the newest version, the newest changes into our production workspace, into our refreshes, without having to open Power BI service and being able to create jobs that will create this for us. So we decided to use the powerful tool that is the Microsoft Power BI management commandlets with PowerShell. So it's not actually inside Power BI, but in this case, ChatGPT works really, really well because it really understands the code that we are trying to use. At first, he didn't know which model we are trying to use. He didn't know what model of the libraries for Power BI that we wanted to use. So I had to specify, okay, I want to use the Microsoft Power BI management tools. And I said, okay, for this test, I said, give me all of the objects that I have in my workspace. And he warned me about the models to make sure that you replace the workspace with some of the variables that we need to use in the text, in the code. Also, it will use the native authentication. So it means it will use the same user that you are using in PowerShell to connect to the Azure account. So it means that if you have the authorization and if you have the permissions, you will be able to run the code, go into the workspace and get a list of all of the objects that you are using. So I tried copying it, creating a PowerShell script, and I did a little test, a quick test, just to generate the list of the objects. And from the test that I was able to explore, I didn't put all of the images here, all of the tests that I did with the commandlets, but I can tell you that the refresh, the incremental refresh, to deploy to different workspaces, to use the deployment pipelines, to push the reports between environments. All of that works with the commandlets, and ChatGPT is able to understand which command we want to use, and it gives us the code, the PowerShell code, really clean, that you can use just directly inside your PowerShell script. Okay, we did next slide. We did some troubleshooting on this, as you can see.
Yeah, on the troubleshooting, we skipped for this presentation just because of the time with the demos, but we also think it's useful on that, right, Ricardo?
Yeah, so I wanted to just showcase that if you tweak a little bit, we have a perfect example here on the chat. If you change the command prompt, and if you change the way, for example, as you connect with the PowerShell or the tabular editor, you'll be able to get results much faster. And you also be able to get an augmented experience using the commandlets. Okay, let's do a summary of all of these tests. So, you want to describe it, Pedro?
Yeah, sure. So as you can see on the creation or evaluation of data models, we think it's really useful with a screenshot or with a script or creating a new one. It works well. On the data analysis specifically, on our tests didn't work. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work well or that it needs some attention. On the generation of artificial data, worked on all cases with iterations, but the best one was the Python one. On generating the Power Query code with more or less iterations, it got there with the results, so it worked well, it was helpful. On generating SVG and CSS together with measures, if you give it the first piece, it will also be able to work it out and evolve the code that you need. On the imaging, actually there is an incorrection here. On the imaging, well, it can generate images, but with the custom sizes, the logo and the banners, it didn't work okay. The 5.1 is the one that is not correct here. It didn't work well. The theme colors and the objects code, it worked okay on that case. On the tabular editor scripts, also on the first case, we had to do some tweaking, and then the other ones were with the iterations that we needed. And on the PowerShell, actually works very well, like Ricardo said, on the REST API or on the commandlets, as long as if you have the permissions to operate directly the commandlets, because it's simpler. You can use it with your own account, but you need the permissions to do so.
So in summary, everything that is related to code that you use in Power BI, it's really efficient, it's really clean, and it will give you a really good code. Power Query, the M query, the DAX, actually the Copilot that is being released is really specific for that part, but also using Tabular Editor. And I did some tests also with DAX Studio to ask, evaluate on specific columns or to generate the code. So it works really well for that.
Doing now the full loop of the presentation, going back to the first study that I mentioned, what is important to note is that, for instance, you can see in this chart, these are different exams like SAT or different exams like on law or on medical or different on history, English, different tests that were given to GPT 3.5 to do it, then GPT-4, and then GPT-4 also with the vision. As you can see, from GPT 3.5, which is the blue, there are some tests where it could only have like 20 or 30%, and with GPT-4 the evolution was massive and it was able to pass easily the tests. And with GPT-4, with vision, it can even take better results. Yeah. Meaning that some of the things that already work here today, great. Some of the things that doesn't work, namely when we have a GPT 4.5 or 5.0, come back to this because likely it will be very easy, maybe even embedded directly in the tool itself. So this is the progression in a few, like in 1 year, not much more than that. We can see a huge progression already on this. Absolutely. Takeaways for the future. Well, go ahead, Ricardo.
Yeah, it's far from perfect. Okay, we did, as you showed, we showed here. It still needs a lot of improvement, but it goes exactly in the direction that we need, and it's really possible to get a really good working version if you continue iterating, if you really fine-tune your prompts and use the output and use the errors to fine-tune your prompt. Well, the best results is like working like a junior level. So for those ones that want to ramp up someone in the team and want to really have a high performance junior that can produce really fast, and like Pedro said, it goes confirming the results that BGG group did. So it means it reduces the learning curve on Power BI really fast.
Like if you are a senior, you already usually know very well all the commandlets. You adjust it very easy. You have the tabular editor scripts already prepared, so you will very easily tweak it. But if you are not, this means that it will really accelerate. So it makes sense, right? What we've seen in the initial study, that if you are more on the junior level, it can propel you to do work that only a senior could do. And if you are already a senior, in some tasks, maybe some of the ones that we showed you can help you to become, in some tasks, better than what you are right now. The evolution from 3.5 to 4.0, like we've seen on the results. And what do you think about this one, Ricardo?
No, but actually we could even add something, because they just released the GPT 4.0 Turbo that already has a lot of improvements on the LLM. So it means that probably someone that can access that version can already have different results. And so the Power BI format will really, well, it will enhance the capabilities to test, to use ChatGPT. And even when you decode this into a project format, you can access each component of the Power BI, which means that you can isolate the treatments that you can do and then regenerate the project and deploy it. So I did with the simple here, the use case with Tabular Editor, but imagine the possibilities that you can do with all the components on the Power BI project, that you can interact with the components.
Yeah, right. If it works well with code, and if everything becomes code with a PBIP format, the potential is great, and even greater when you go to a 4.5 or 5.0 version of GPT. So the potential is really great.
Absolutely. We do have 2 questions in the chat. Any luck on finding a methodology or framework to modify existing code? The non-deterministic nature of the result make it difficult?
Yeah, so maybe Vince, on that one, depends on the type of code that you are doing.
Yeah.
So I think, so there are a lot of recommendations on the prompt engineering, being very specific on act as someone, explaining exactly the task that you needed. Sometimes you can even use prompt engineering, break down the tasks. So explain it exactly, not to do everything at once, break one task, then a second task.
I think I can give a simple example.
I think I can give it. You can solve it because if you do not, you might get a different result. Even so, if you are using the same request.
So I already did some tests with Python. I did some tests with Python code and with Jupyter notebooks. And so with Jupyter notebooks, when you isolate the steps, you can actually use Copilot to fix the errors on the code. So you can ask commands to say fix errors, and it will read the code and it will be able to suggest you the changes. Even in Python, it can also work really well. Scala can work really well. So it means that depending on the type of coding, on the type of usage that you do on the code, it's possible that you can actually find something to correct the code. Okay.
If I understood the question correctly, it's not about getting the answer as you want, but about the problem of non-deterministic, meaning that you don't know that someone else will get a different code. So you cannot fix it because you don't know that you get something different.
And Ronan, that's exactly one of the reasons why we did the tests and did the recording of the tests done, because today I might run the code and it might give me a completely different response. Yeah. It's possible.
Exactly. There was another question. No, a general question, if you can bring some thought about the cost versus benefit.
Well, I can share that in our company, we have a lot of compliance rules. So it means that the cost to implement this kind of tools to use generally in the company, well, it has a lot of cost, okay, because we cannot use the OpenAI as it's available for anyone. But we did the effort on the company. We now have generative AI working inside the company in a closed silo. Let's call it like in a closed environment. And I can assure you that the cost of investment to generate that tool has already been paid, because the usage of it is crazy. Anyone translating text, translating code, asking to migrate code, for example, from one version of the language to another, it just reduced the time to write it so much, even if it's just, okay, it doesn't give you the perfect answer, but if you can just migrate half of the code, you already gained half of the time that you'd had to develop it. Someone is asking to explain how to access the ChatGPT 4. Well, I just installed Microsoft Copilot. Is an application that you can use on Android, and you can install it on your Android phone or iOS, and then you activate with a button the ChatGPT 4. If you're talking about the Copilot inside the Power BI service in Fabric, I'm not sure, but it's already possible to use Copilot in Fabric. It's on the preview version. And depending on the zone that you are, but for example, in Portugal, we are already available to use the Copilot if you have a capacity in Fabric that is greater than 128 or no, 64.
And on for instance, on the examples, let's say, for instance, as we see here in the last bullet point, you can see it, for instance, right now on DAX, but likely this was when we prepared the slides for the presentation. We think that likely we will see it also in Power Query, in the administration, like running commands, doing backups, doing a lot of operations, and also on the design part. And after we prepare this, we already seen the announcement that it's coming also in Power Query. So I think we are on the right track, what we think. And for instance, on non-sensitive code like the M code that we've seen, you can access GPT-4. You have to do it outside of Power BI, or on an internal local, you can run GPT-4 internally in your company. You can run the same type of LLMs inside your company, and then you can throw the code, or you can do it directly on VS Code or on GitHub 10. So you can do this internally the same we are doing here, and tweak this code internally without going outside like I did on the web.
And I just heard that Microsoft will release the AI Studio that will help you generate your model for your own company with your own data. I'm not sure when it will be released, but they announced the tool already, so they are already in preview for that.
If anyone wants to use this time to open your camera and microphone, you are welcome. I changed the setting of the meeting, so we can even take together mode image if you want of everyone.
Absolutely.
So just open your camera.
Oh, that would be nice.
And you can continue with the question.
Yeah, I used the imaging on Bing to generate the avatars. I don't know if you saw that trend, that lately trend, that many people have been using the Bing AI generator to generate images and avatar of your own picture, of your own image. So it's fun. Just for fun, okay, not for production use.
Yeah, that's part of the work. Fun is basically part. Let's check if we have more questions. There are a lot of thank you. I want to check that we didn't miss any question between.
Have you tried also other AI tools like Bard, Bing, Copilot? Yeah. On this one, for instance, we tried, of course, the GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. We also tried directly the Microsoft Copilot for this case. On the Copilot, what didn't work so well is the actual, for instance, on GPT, on ChatGPT, the storing of the history works very well on your window, and on the Copilot, it was not so friendly to store the history and to do different chats and to store the information on that. On Bard or other tools, didn't try it out. We consider for the future to try to do it specifically for the imaging part, because it was the one which had the worst results, and we'll try to find another AI which works well for that.
Absolutely.
I can say that I have tried. Actually, I'm using it a lot on Bing. It's a great solution. If your English is not perfect, you can use the Copilot and get
we work in a multinational company. I use Translate every day.
Yeah,
even sometimes
great.
to just translate the chat.
In fact, the person that showed me this first time, the person that showed me this first time is the co-admin of this community, Jen Joseph. He was the first one who make me use all the tools on Bings before this, and I used almost only Chrome. So you can try it. It's working great.
Absolutely.
What does it mean to have, there was a question from Yuda. What does it mean to have AI internally? Are you using Azure service or something else?
Yes, you can use OpenAI internally with Azure services, or you can deploy your own LLM models inside your company. Do you have more information on that, Pedro?
No, it's like you said. Basically, you can run locally different types of large language models. Some of them are set to run in the cloud. Some of them you can run with an API call, or you can run them locally and you control it.
This could give another session, but I can tell you that internally we use the data catalog, our data governance tool, to feed the OpenAI model, and that way, when you search something on the prompt, it will know how to search for the data of our company.
If you want, you can drop me a message on LinkedIn. I have a tutorial which you can follow, and it explains exactly everything if you want to do that option, how to install locally. And you can try it out even online on GitHub Code Spaces. You can try it out running the code there for your tests.
What I recommend is that I already mentioned that after the meeting, I want you to pass me the session materials. So when you do it, you can add all the links, even those that you did not presented in the session, add it to the PowerPoint that you send me, or the PDF, whatever you send, so people can get more information.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we can send it directly in PDF, maybe because it's smaller. We can share it on the PDF.
Whatever you want. Just we will speak about this after. I do want to remind everyone we record this meeting. Usually it takes me about 1 to a few days until I upload it. So it will not be today. I'm in Israel. It's 8:30 p.m. when we will finish it. I have another meeting. So usually it takes between 1 day to 3 days, but not guarantee. It will be online. And if you have more questions, you can always ask them in other
absolutely reach out for us
channels.
on LinkedIn. Yeah.
At this time, I don't see any more question. I do want to thank our speakers. It's a great session. Don't forget the Future Data Driven Summit to join as speakers. Ricardo, Pedro, thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
And thanks a lot to everyone who joined us today. You can follow me and Jen Joseph on social media to get update information regarding the community. But most important is to check the community website for a list of upcoming events and news. And you're welcome to open camera, as I said, if you want. We are at the end of the session of today. So again, thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks a lot for all the great comments. It's really appreciated, the positive feedback, guys. Hope to come back, Ronan and everyone, in a future event. It was really a pleasure to be here today.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
I will close the recording if there are no questions. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.